we are looking for problems as men,
Yeah.
right? And we're like actively looking for them.
We want to be problem solvers, right?
Well, and if we don't have a problem, we'll stress about dumb shit. Like this is why Us Magazine and People Magazine and these sorts of things exist, because if you don't have a problem you're trying to work, you're going to start worrying about what Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are doing.
Yeah.
And you're like, look at this beta, look at this bitch, how he's treating it. It's like, dude, that should be the last thing on your mind.
Yeah.
Like that's a problem that you shouldn't be consumed with.
Real business owner.
Whatever your situation is currently is not your forever situation.
That's really what real business owners is, man. Like, we don't care where you come from, where are you going?
Our goal and our job is to reduce the mistakes that you have to make or the money that you have to lose.
You want to be an entrepreneur, you want to be successful, don't give up.
You learn, adjust, and continue to move forward. Welcome back to the Real Business Owners Podcast with myself, Trevor Cowley. As always, Kel Goodman.
What's up?
Guys, today we have a special guest, a local success story in the podcast industry, leader, father, author several times over.
Yep.
As we were just discussing before we hopped on, you have 70, 80 million, something like that downloads on your podcast. And it's absolutely incredible. And he's saying it's because it's been around since 2015. They didn't have many options, but obviously he's saying something good to keep their ear for, what's that, 9 years now?
Yeah, almost 9 years. But yeah, it's just consistency.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Week in, week out.
Yep.
I haven't missed an episode. I was looking at it. We've done over 1,100 episodes. So we do 3 a week. So I do an interview show every Tuesday. We do an Ask Me Anything where we answer questions from our guests or our listeners.
Or something in? Just
they
questions,
email or
DMs
on our Facebook group or whatever.
Okay.
They'll ask questions or in our Brotherhood the Iron Council. I do that every Wednesday. And then a co-host of mine every Friday, we just we riff on whatever the topic is that I feel like we want to talk about. And so, we've done 1,100 plus podcasts. And I haven't missed a single week. There's been a couple weeks where I did like a replay or two because I was going through my own personal struggles.
Yeah. You took something that was like 3 years old. They're like, they won't know. Let's throw it in,
No, I didn't hide it. I told them, I said, this is a replay. Like this one I think is still pertinent. It's a replay. I mean, I'm not going to hide the fact that we're doing it, but for like I said, 1,100 plus podcast episodes. So people will say like, Ryan, you're so good at podcasting. Well, I've done 1,100 of them.
Yeah. It's reps on reps, like thousands of reps.
If I'm still sucking after 1,100 podcasts, I would have dropped that ball a long time ago.
I don't know if I even formally introduced you guys. This is Ryan Michler. I would guess that there's a chunk of our listeners that already know who you are, follow you, support you. You know, it seems like that you have a lot of support as well in the blue collar industry, as we were talking about prior to going on.
Yeah.
Did you ever do blue collar stuff, or
I mean a little
is
bit?
It just the beard and the stash that's really reeling them in,
mustache and the muscles.
Yeah, all that the manly shit, right?
Yeah, it's the boots.
Yeah,
the worn down Red Wings that I really don't put to work. I just had them for 3 years.
You just throw them outside or tie them to your bumper when you're going a dirt road.
Just rub dirt on them.
It's like,
look at these guys. Man. I work.
And then we get behind the desk and record a podcast. 1,100 of them to be exact. That's cool.
What was your question? We got distracted.
I don't know.
The
blue collar.
The blue collar. No, not really. I mean,
when you were young,
I was in the
way.
military.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, I was in the military. I did some landscaping here and there. I delivered pizzas. That's not really blue collar, I wouldn't consider.
Well, you probably delivered them to some blue collar guys that it was much needed.
The thing I remember is delivering them to parties and college girls would answer the door. I'm like, this is a cool gig. Yeah. This is my.
Can I come in for 5-10 minutes?
I think I might go back to delivering pizzas the way I remember it, but it was pretty fun.
So, this is my last delivery tonight, guys. I'm staying.
I quit. So how did Order of Man come about? Like, where were you at in your life and kind of the mindset and like, when did that concept,
Yeah, so my background is financial planning.
Okay.
So I did that for about 9 years. So when I got back from Iraq, actually even before I got back from Iraq, I had a bunch of downtime. I took all my study materials for my 6 and 63, which are investment exams and things like that. So I took that back to Iraq with me, my insurance stuff back to Iraq with me. And yeah, so while guys are watching, binge watching series of 24, because that was the show back in 20.
That was the hit series or
2005,
whatever.
2006.
Guzzling in episode after episode.
I was sitting there reading like insurance books and investment.
Those are so boring.
Manuals. It was horrible.
Oh my God.
So I did that, and I've always had a pretty good memory, so I memorized everything, and I came back and passed the exams.
Did you have somebody in your life or something that was steering you in that direction?
Well, I was doing retail management. So
Okay.
so that's even before that. I was doing, I managed Buckle actually.
Okay.
So I was on a management development program here in Southern Utah.
You were
with
one of those
Buckle.
hardcore Buckle salespeople.
Again, it's all about the
You
women.
can't go in there without getting freaking sold.
Oh yeah.
Golly, they're good at it.
I went
They're
hard.
good
Man.
at it.
I went hard. But yeah, it was all, when I was young, it was just chasing women. I'm like, well, the women are going into Buckle. I want to go work over there. So I went and worked at Buckle. And then I eventually I got married. I opened a store in Southern California. And the day before Thanksgiving, my section chief calls me and he's like, hey man, our unit's been activated to go to Iraq. I'm like, oh shit. So my wife, she's my ex-wife now, but my wife at the time, had already come back to Southern Utah for Thanksgiving, and I came a day later. So I got up there, and I guess I was acting weird, but my father-in-law was like, "What's wrong with you? You're gonna get activated to go to Iraq or something?" He had no idea. He just randomly said that, and I'm like, "Yeah." As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
and that's how my wife found out. So I ended up going to Iraq, and my goal was when I came back we were going to go back to California and go back and manage and run that store in California.
Yeah.
But I realized if I wanted to go anywhere in retail, I was probably going to have to move into corporate, which I could have done. Like I was pretty successful with the business. The stores were always doing well. Part of my responsibility was I would bounce around from store to store and help struggling stores get back on their feet and help them put the systems in place to be able to, be profitable. And so I decided, I don't want to work nights and weekends. I don't want to work holidays. I don't want to go to Kearney, Nebraska, which is where the headquarters were. I came back from a leave and I met with a guy and he's like, I'm looking for 2 financial advisors. I'm like, okay, sounds good. I don't know what that is, but
So you're telling me I can read a book and become a financial advisor?
Yeah, exactly. I'm broke, but
Yeah.
you really want me to help people with their money? Okay. I can lie about that.
Yeah, we used to have a funding business, and people were like, "Oh, I want to start a credit repair company." We're like, "What's your credit look like?" 530.
Yeah.
And it's like, huh? Or a financial advising business, and it's like, "What's your finances look like?"
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, exactly.
maxed out on credit cards and no money in the bank.
Yeah, exactly.
So it just sounds good.
Yeah, so I did that. I came back, started doing that. I did pretty good. I was pretty successful with that. And I started a podcast called Wealth Anatomy because I was really interested in new digital technology and marketing. That's always been something that's been interesting to me.
Yeah.
So I started this podcast, and the company I was working with was like, hey, what are you doing? You can't be doing that. Like, you have to run your script through us and
Get all these approvals.
you get
or
approval
whatever.
through
Yeah.
compliance because
Yeah.
we don't want you saying something that you shouldn't be saying. And I'm like, this sucks.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to do this anymore.
So when was that? What year was that?
That was 2014.
Wow.
I think I started doing that podcast. It was interesting.
I didn't even know podcasts existed
I
back
know.
then, bro. Like, how did you find out about a podcast, let alone have an idea to start a podcast?
Yeah. So what I was doing is I was meeting with clients or prospective clients, and my closing ratio was, I don't know what it was, but it wasn't good.
Yeah.
Like I'd meet with people and maybe 40, 50% of them would do business with me.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm spending an hour and a half with these people trying to convince them they should work with me. Half of them are doing business with me. The other half are just wasting my time.
Yeah.
Like, this is dumb. I'm not doing this anymore. So I went over to Staples and I bought, what was it called? A Blue Yeti microphone. So it was like this like old school, just cheap microphone, not like the Shure that we're using now, right? Yeah. And I decided I'm just gonna record my first sales presentation. So if I was meeting with you guys, I just recorded whatever it is I was gonna say to you guys as a first meeting. And I went to Staples. I bought a bunch of blank CDs. I went into I don't know if it's still there. It's like Kodiak or so. It's like an old it's off of Main Street, I think.
I don't think it's there anymore.
I don't think it is, but you can get your pictures taken there.
I think it was right next to like the Zions Bank right down here.
Yeah, it was right over there.
Yeah.
So I went in there and I'm like, hey, I put a suit on. I'm like, I need to have some pictures. I
felt like
Napoleon Dynamite. I'm like, is there some sort of vest I can wear?
Yeah.
You know?
Where's your closet? Your dressing room. Yeah.
So I took these pictures and then I went back to Staples and I bought the, like those, like the stickers that you can put over blank CDs.
Yeah.
So I put my headshot on there and I put them over blank CDs.
Started manufacturing your pitch.
Yeah, exactly. And so what I would do is I would just hand these things out like candy. I'm like, hey, here's this. Here's what I'm doing. Here's this. Here's this. And people would listen to it and then they would come in and my closing ratio went from whether it was 40 or 50% went to like 80, 90%.
Wow.
Because everybody who came in had already listened to the first pitch and they'd already qualified themselves.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, damn.
They want to know more.
Like this works, right? Like now people that are coming in, I'm not wasting my time. My closing ratio is higher.
Wow.
I don't have to waste my time with people who don't want to work with me. And I thought, this is cool, but why don't I start a podcast like where I'm just sharing ideas about insurance, disability insurance, investments, whatever it might be. And I remember the first guy that called me, he was a pediatric physician and he was in Pennsylvania. And he calls me up and he's like, hey, I need disability insurance. And I was like, okay. I mean, that's random. Like I'm in Southern Utah. This guy's in Pennsylvania.
Why'd he hit you up?
Yeah. I was like, I don't understand. And he went through and he rattled this list off of things that he wanted in disability insurance. Do you guys know anything about disability insurance?
No.
Very, very little.
Nobody knows anything about disability insurance. Like nobody knows a thing about disability insurance. But this guy had a laundry list of like, I want this much, I want these features, I want this benefit, I don't need this exclusion. And I'm like, this is fishy.
Yeah.
I was thinking to myself, this guy's either just shopping around and he's talked to a bunch of people or he's not.
Another agent or
That's
something.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I was like,
nobody knows this much unless they're in the game. Yeah.
So I'm like, this guy's an insurance agent and he's like scoping me out. This was weird. And so I asked him, I said, you know a lot about disability insurance. Like, what's the deal? He's like, oh, I just listened to your podcast and wrote down everything you told me I needed to get.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh, that was a light bulb moment for me.
Yeah.
Like, okay. Podcasting
There's
works.
something to it.
Like I'm in his head, I'm in his ears.
Yeah.
He's listening to me as and whether I'm not or whether I am or not, he's viewing me as an authority
in that
space.
Yeah.
And so I sold him some disability insurance and I had that happen multiple times. I'm like, man, this thing actually works. But I got sick of having that conversation. I remember I got a phone call and I looked at my phone and it was a client of mine, and I'm like, oh.
I don't want to answer it.
And it wasn't the client.
Yeah.
The client was cool. Like, we were friends.
It was the industry.
They were a long-term client. I really enjoyed the family. But I'm like, I don't want to hear about you rebalancing your portfolio. Like, I just have no desire to do that at all. So I realized I love the medium of podcasting, but I'm like, let's just have a different conversation. And at the time, I was newly married. I think I had 2 kids. Yeah, 2 young kids at the time. And I wanted to be a better man, like a better father, a better husband.
Well, it's just weird that you started it at that time, and then within 5 years, 6 years, it like became like a more top of mind subject, right? Like, I think now more than ever we can understand the value of where your head was back then.
Right.
But back then it's like, okay, order of man, like what, like you're like, what do men need to do?
Yeah.
Right. Like, and then all of a sudden there was this big battle against masculinity in men and like the downfall pretty much of men in general.
I wrestle with that sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, oh, it was just good timing.
Yeah.
And other times the arrogant side of me says, well, I'm the one who started this movement. And I'm not. I mean, there was other guys doing it. They weren't doing it to the degree that I was, and they weren't having the same kind of conversations. One guy that comes to mind is Brett McKay with Art of Manliness. was a huge inspiration for me, but he was talking about, you know, how to tie a tie, you know, how to have manners on a first date, like things like that I think are important for men to know.
Yeah.
And really where I started to go was, what's the mentality of men? What's the mindset? Like, how do you temper your violence? You know, how do you tap into wealth building? I think things that were deeper than what he was talking about at the time.
Yeah.
And so
he might have covered that first couple layers of the surface, but you were
he
trying
did a
to
great
go.
job.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not throwing him under the bus.
Yeah. Every layer needs to be covered.
Exactly.
Right. You were just going deeper into the core of a man versus like, hey,
Yeah.
presentation, look,
Yeah, exactly.
like, you know, I didn't have my dad around, and so when when I had my tie tied, it stayed tied.
Right.
You know,
right.
like,
and then you loosen it up, and then you like slip it back on. And
I
tighten
swear
it back
to God,
up.
I just moved
Totally.
out of our house in Washington and moved up to Virgin, and going through my closet, I
tied.
still have probably 10 ties that have never been untied for probably 25 years. Dude.
Yeah.
You know, at least 20 years, right? Because I was just never taught something as simple as that. And back in those days, we didn't really have YouTube to where you're just like, okay.
Yeah. I remember like my mom taught me how to shave, stuff like that.
So was your dad not present?
No, he wasn't around.
Okay.
Like, he and my mom split when I was 3. He passed away about 5 years ago.
Okay.
But yeah, I wanted to have a deeper conversation. So I'm like, well, let's just start something for men. So I started Order of Man in 2015, March of 2015, and it blew up.
Did you have an idea of when you started it where you wanted to take it?
No.
Or did you just start and then as you took that first step, then the next step kind
That's
of
what it
opened
was.
up itself to you? Or,
That's what it was.
You know, and it became clearer and clearer and clearer every step that you took.
And that's what guys
need
to do.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times they're waiting for things to be perfect or have the perfect formula. My very first, I don't know if it was an article actually, was how to throw a baseball.
That you wrote?
That I wrote.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know how you would write an article about like put your arm back.
I think every like
follow through,
like how, you know, and like how to,
like the grip,
you know,
and
here's
where
a
out on
change
the
up, here's a
threads.
curveball, here's a fastball, 2-seam, 4-seam. Which, you know, I think every guy should know how to throw a baseball.
Yeah.
But I don't give a shit about that anymore.
Yeah.
Like, that's the furthest thing from what we talk about.
Yeah.
But that was the first article I ever wrote.
Like a blog article type thing?
That's all it was. It was just an article.
Okay.
Yeah. And another one I wrote was I went to a men's conference where I knew a bunch of men with Brett McKay with Art of Manliness. I knew he was going to be there. A bunch of other guys. And I did a write-up on all these guys. I said, here's, 8 guys that I heard from, and here's what they talked about, and here's what I like about what they have to say. And the cool thing about that was all these guys shared it on their end. They shared it on their social media.
Yeah.
They shared it on their website. They talked about it on their video, on their YouTube videos and everything. And it blew up.
Wow.
It blew up from there. And then it just gradually morphed into this thing. And then about 6 or 7 months into this thing, I was still doing my financial planning stuff. So I'd wake up and I'd do 2 hours of Order of Man stuff in the morning. And then I'd go to work and do my real job. And then I'd come home and play with the kids and eat dinner and talk to my wife. And then I'd go back for 2 more hours and do the Order of Man stuff. And I did that for like 6 months. Mm-hmm. And gradually the Order of Man stuff started to
eating your hours
eat into my work.
Yeah.
And so my ex came to me and she's like, hey, I really love that you're doing this Order of Man thing. It's awesome. Like, you seem happy. You seem fulfilled.
But yeah, what's up with the money?
Yeah, she's like, it's eating into the household income.
Yeah.
You know, your client, you don't have as many clients.
Your hobby, ain't paying the bills.
So she's like, I think you should probably try to find a way to either make some money doing it or maybe scale back. And she was right on. And I wasn't going to scale back. If anything, I'm like, I'm going to double down on this thing. So I listened to a podcast. It could have been like Pat Flynn maybe or somebody, and he had a guest on, and the guy was like, yeah, just do a course. I'm like, yeah, do a course, easy. I'll just do a course. I don't know what that means, but I'll do a course.
Sounds good.
And so I had done a YouTube video about, I think it was like 6 or 8 things every man needs to master, something like that. And I was like, okay, I'll just use that for my course material.
Yeah.
And so what I did is I put together every 2 weeks we talked about one of those things. It was a 12-week course. And so we talked about each one of those things for 2 weeks. I set up a Facebook group. I sent out a monthly assignment. I let the guys talk. We did some challenges, and I called it the Iron Council, and I told the guys, I'm like, hey, I have 12 spots for this. It's $100. Got 12 spots. It's $100. Sign up. Here's what we'll do. And I had 12 guys sign up like instantly.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. And I made $1,000.
I meant 1,200
Yeah,
spots.
12.
Yeah. You know, 1,200. Sorry, I forgot a zero on there.
My wife said I forgot multiple zeros.
Yeah, exactly.
In the bank account and right here.
Yeah. So that first month, I think that was like November-ish or so of 2015. I made $1,000.
Yeah.
Which is like not a lot.
Yeah,
but
it
I was
was
like,
real. Yeah.
That's another light bulb moment. Like, I can actually do this. I remember the first guy that signed up. His name's Mark Gablowski. In fact, he's still in the Iron Council. He's our very first member.
He's an OG.
Very first member.
Yeah.
He's member 2. I'm member 1. So like
So if you ever die, he's going to take over the Iron Council.
Oh yeah, it's his.
In next
It's his. It's written in the will, so it's his. But yeah, I still have an email. He sent it to me, and it was like, "Hey man, thanks for believing in me. Like, it was just me. Now it's you and me, and like, let's blow this thing up." So I still have that email. I saved it, and we get into like 8 weeks of this thing. It's a 12-week course. We get 8 weeks into this thing, and the guys are like, "What do we do next? What do we do next?" I'm like, I don't know. I
go live life. I
don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I just created this just because my wife told me I needed to make some money. I don't know what I should do. So I'm like, well, let's just keep doing it. So we did it, and now we have just under 1,400 members.
Wow.
And we've done events, and I think we've done probably 20 different events, from father-son events to just men-only events. We did a big one out in Maine last year where we had 120 guys out there. This year I want to do a summit where we have minimum 500 guys there. I have a facility that'll hold up to 900. So my minimum goal is 500. My maximum goal, is 900. Where it'll be more of like your traditional summit that you would think of, where guest speakers come in, and so it's weird, man. Like, I never
what it's evolved into.
Well, it's and part of the reason it's weird is because I know me. Like, I don't think I'm anything special.
Yeah.
I know a lot of the guys listening are probably thinking the same thing.
Exactly.
You know, they're turning a wrench or like swinging a hammer.
What
whatever
value can I bring to the world outside of this thing that I'm already doing? Right.
And they don't think it's all that special. They're like, it's just a house. Yeah, it's just a car, an engine. It's just like, they don't think it's special. They don't think they're special.
Mm-hmm.
But when you start sharing what you do with the world and what you're excited about, like, not everybody's good at the same thing. And I kind of realized that if something comes naturally for you, or you've been doing it for a long time, you'll underplay it. Like, oh, what's the big deal? Like, everybody does this.
Yeah. It's called cognitive bias.
Right.
So, in other words, the things that are common sense to you because you've done them for 20 years is not so common sense.
Right.
Like, you put me on a construction site with a guy that's been doing it for 20 years and watch him talk. I mean, it's all going to go over my head, and I will not know anything that he's talking about, right?
Yeah.
But if he wants to say, hey, if you ever want to start a construction company or be a general contractor, sign up for my course or come into my group, and I'm going to show you everywhere where I fucked up. Yeah. You know, all of the areas that I lost money, 10 grand here, 50 grand, and I'm going to save your ass.
Right.
And I'm going to get you from point A to B just a little bit quicker. That doesn't mean that there's not going to be problems.
Right.
There's going to be issues. There's going to be struggles, but I'll help you weave in and out of some of the pain points that I had to go through or experience. Right.
Well, and I think that's part of the problem, is that people, when you're looking at picking up clients, a lot of them will say, well, like, I can just do it on my own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can. Like, you can learn how to build a home on your own. You definitely can.
Yeah.
You know, you can learn how to podcast by yourself, which is what I had to do.
Yeah.
Or you can hire somebody, and you can cut your time from 10 years to 5 years, or 5 years to 2 years. You can save from spending, hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is what I've spent over the past 9 years now, to spending $5,000 or $10,000 on some equipment and some coaching and get it done right. So investing in yourself is crucial.
You're collapsing time. And
exactly.
the question is whether you have the money to do that or you don't. Sometimes the only asset that we have available to us is time. And so utilize it in a manner that is actually productive. Make your time valuable to where you actually can bring in some currency and make some money. And then what you do with that money is you utilize it to increase your skill or to hire a mentor or get around the right people that can, again, help you increase the value of your time. And then it becomes this machine where your time ends up becoming more and more valuable. You're making more and more money. You can continue to spend on self-improvement or coaches or mentors. And by that time, you're bringing in enough to where you're making enough.
Exactly.
Your skills continuing to increase. And then you have this ecosystem of improvement, right?
And the best thing you can do on that, I'm thinking if you're blue collar, really any profession, a lot of guys will be like, well, I want to do something, but I don't know what to do. Just teach people what you know.
Yeah.
So for example, I just got back from a trip. I was hunting last week, and I get back to St. George, and I go out to my truck, and I look at it from the back, and it's like leaning down in the front. I'm like, oh shit, I got a flat tire. Peek around there, sure enough, flat tire, right?
Was that one of the 8 things a guy must know how to do?
Absolutely.
In your course
That's
or
just
whatever?
A given. That's not even, that shouldn't even be on the,
Thank
that's
God
not
for
even
YouTube.
on the
I'll
list.
be under there like, okay.
Yeah, it's like, what do I do now?
It's under my back seat. This knobby. Put it on that knobby.
I had the biggest pain in the ass. I know how to change a tire, but I had the biggest pain in the ass with that tire because I put my tire iron on there and I put it on one of the lug nuts. And I cranked on it, and I don't know what it was about the lug nut, but it had some sort of like weird cap on the lug nut itself.
Oh, yeah.
And it like cracked and bent and wedged into my tire iron. So I couldn't get it or any of the other lug nuts off.
It was like stuck in your tire.
Wedged in there. I'm like, what the hell? So I went into the airport, and I went up to the car rental place. And there's a couple guys there. I'm like, hey, do you guys have a tire iron for a truck? They're like, no, we only have minivans and, sedans. I'm like, shit. I was like, do you have like pliers, anything? And they're like, no. I'm like, okay, well, all right, let me check somebody else. And I went and they had some pliers, and I sit there and like wedge it out and finally got it and, was able to change the tire. But if you're a mechanic and you're like, how do I start something like this? Teach people how to change a tire like that. Yeah. Like do a YouTube video.
Like I just said, I would go to YouTube.
Yeah.
And then now you're making ad dollars.
Right. And you might think it's stupid. You might be like, everybody knows how to change a tire. No, trust me, not everybody knows how to change a tire.
What about the woman that's alone on the side of the freeway?
Exactly. What does she do? Right? Or what does she do if a dude approaches her and she's like feeling uncomfortable and does she carry? And if she carries, does she know how to use a firearm properly and when to use it? Mm-hmm. Like there's so many different things. It doesn't matter what profession you're in. What you know, somebody else needs to learn. And if you can take what you know and teach it through social media or through YouTube or video, you're gonna find some things that are actually gonna really take off. You might do 10 videos and get 20 views on each of the videos. And that 11th video, all of a sudden you get 2 million views and you're in the game.
Yeah.
I think about, there's Matt's Off-Road Recovery. Have you guys heard of Matt's?
Yeah, I'm on one of his videos, dude.
You are?
Yeah.
Because you got stuck?
Had like 2 million.
You didn't know how to change your tires, so you had to have Matt come out and do it for you?
He did the
we
YouTube.
got a whole other podcast
They
episode.
call a man.
Yeah, you're like,
they called another
look
man.
at this idiot.
Yeah.
Like, now I got to go rescue this guy.
I was hunting with my buddy Cassidy, and I'm like, all right, dude, I can't get my trailer up there. We're up at the Coral Pink Sand Dunes.
Oh, yeah.
And my trailer's much bigger than his.
Uh-huh.
He's like, yeah, but dude, mine was easy. We'll get your trailer up there. I'm like, all right, dude, let's go for it. And so I put my 4-wheel in, twist the knob in the truck.
Yeah.
Light lights up. And I start mowing it up there. And he's like, you're going to have to gun around that little turn, dude. It gets weird right there. So I'm gunning it. And, dude, it just sank. and like just spinning out, doing the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, shit, dude. Like we tried so many times, so many different ways to get out with his truck. So we call those guys up. They show up with videos, dude, and they're just like,
you're like, turn that damn video off.
oh my
I don't
gosh,
want
dude.
this.
Do the scribble over my face like it's cops
I didn't
or something.
know. I didn't know it like it was a big deal YouTube channel.
Oh,
so
it's huge.
when Cass was like, dude, look at your YouTube video, it had like 2 million something
Yeah,
views.
dude,
All
it's
this
massive.
shit talk about what an idiot I was.
Yeah.
What dumbass would take that large of a
Turns
trailer
out-
up?
Yeah,
My
exactly.
4-wheel didn't work. And I needed to get out and manually lock in my hubcaps, but it lit up, dude. It said it was in 4-wheel, so
Right.
I trusted it. Dude.
Well,
Right.
you said something there right prior to the situation that I think every man does prior to getting into a situation. Let's just do it. We'll figure it out or something. You
yeah.
said something like that. Like
It'll work.
It'll work out.
We'll
dude.
get it.
It'll work.
We'll get it. It'll
Yeah.
work.
Like,
Famous last
Yeah,
words.
My
right?
trailer ended up down by the highway for the rest of deer camp, and then Cass and all his friends were up there, so I'd hang out there camp
Yeah.
and then just go to
go
mine.
back down. Yeah.
But I mean, the
Sleep.
point I'm making with that is that guy. He's a tow truck service.
Yeah.
And he kills
Like
it.
it's a glorified.
He was already
going to
do the call
He's gonna
anyways
do it.
and make
But now
whatever his $1,000 pulling him out of
Right.
the sand.
But
Now,
now
he's
he
making
videos it.
tens of thousands.
Yeah, the guy's. I don't know
Yeah.
what he makes, but based on his subscribers, the guy's making great money.
Yeah.
because
Well, I
he's
heard it
videoing.
was like $5 per
documenting.
1,000 views or something like that.
I don't.
My daughter did a dumb little video. We didn't allow her to have like YouTube or anything like that until
Yeah.
she was like 13.
Yeah.
And then she started this short thing or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't even know. It's called Crazy Claire. I just barely saw it. My wife monitors it. But
That's
she had
good,
one
yeah.
video that it was just like dumb. It got 17 million views.
Did it really?
Yeah. And
That's what
so
I'm saying, dude.
YouTube reached out and said, hey, you can start monetizing or whatever. So my wife filled it out, and now she does these little videos with 26,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
And she's got a check for $350 coming she just turned 14
freaking
2
awesome.
days ago.
It's so
You know what I
weird.
mean?
From
And she
doing a
has like
video.
literally, I think, 30 videos on her
Yeah.
YouTube. You know?
Well, like
So it's
even
like-
this, like I record my podcast, we do video and
Yeah.
audio. You guys got your cameras
Yeah.
going. Like at this point, we've got I think right around 300, just over 300,000 subscribers on YouTube, and I get a check for $2,500 to $3,000 a month
Yeah.
just for putting it up there,
Yeah.
which is nice because it pays for my editor.
Yeah.
Right. So like
Cover something.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, just because we
some
throw
of
it
the
up
stuff might
there.
not be life-changing money where you're going to buy the house on the
No,
hill or
but-
some shit, but
Yeah.
$1,000 or $500 or $2,000, $2,500,
Right.
whatever it is, right?
Or you do a video with, I've got a couple that have done over 1 million views, like
Yeah.
one with David Goggins that I did a video with him 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 years ago. A couple others that have hit 1 million, and it's like, you never know it's going to hit 1 million, but if you just document what you're doing, even if it seems stupid, like if you're on a plumbing call, let's say you're a plumber and you're on a plumbing call and the guy's like, my toilet's not working. You go in there and the chain that
It fell off.
breaks.
He got wound a little bit.
Yeah,
got
that breaks,
kinked up.
from the handle to the plunger.
Yeah.
I don't even know what it's called, but the little plunger thing.
Sucker plunger thing.
Yeah.
Suck.
Like, and it breaks. And you're used to that happening. Like that happens all the time, and somebody's got to pay you $75 for a call.
Yeah.
Like, take a video of it and just say, look, guys, this happens all the time. Okay, if your toilet's not working, your handle's loose, just take the damn thing off. Look at the chain. Go
See
to
if the
Home
chain
Depot.
disconnected or
It's
fell
going to cost
or-
you $8. Rehook the chain up. You're good to go. You don't need to call me for this.
Yeah.
If you do that,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, like, that stuff's going to blow up. And yeah, you're thinking, well, then they won't pay me $75. Yeah, because you're going to make $75,000
on all the views.
from YouTube
Yeah.
because everybody just watched it. I'll take the $75,000 over the $75 call to fix
My
the guy's
guess is
chain.
you probably wouldn't notice the revenue drop dramatically.
No.
And if you're surviving off of a $75 toilet call,
Right, exactly.
you need to expand
Exactly.
a little
Yeah,
bit, maybe
exactly.
your marketing.
So I think whatever you're into, I mean, there's people doing just weird shit. Like
Weird-ass
you see
shit,
these,
yeah.
you see these girls, and they're like, and I'm not bagging on your daughter
Yeah.
here or anything, but like my
Oh,
daughter
it's
does the same
disgusting
thing with
that
her,
It's just dumb shit.
and they're like dancing or like cooking. I'm like, what the hell? Like, I don't even.
There's
want
no.
you to do
That's what bothers me
You know
is
what
that there's really no substance behind it in terms of like growth,
Right.
but maybe again, that's cognitive bias. Like everything that I'm spending time on or watching, it should be something that's nutritious for my mind and making me grow or making me think.
Most
versus
people just wanna,
zone
like,
out,
tune
right?
out.
And
Yeah.
just like laugh.
Yeah, exactly.
That's, or whatever.
Stupid cat
but like,
videos or something.
we
Or just be relatable, like people are like, oh, I get her. I do weird shit like that.
I bought a tractor or whatever, and literally I've YouTubed everything about it. Like, okay, well, what about this or what about that? Like, and there's a guy. Standing next to a tractor saying, you do this,
here's how you do
this, you do that.
Well, and the other thing too, there's a big genre of people just want to live vicariously through others. So a good friend of mine, Eric Chesser, I don't know if you guys know who he is. He's with Hush.
Yeah,
so,
I do. Yeah, I watched their channel.
He's a stud. Him and I have been hunting. We went to Hawaii earlier in the year and hunted, and he is.
You do the axis deer?
Yeah, axis deer. He's a killer, man. Yeah. He's an amazing hunter. Him and Ben Shed Crazy. He's here in Southern Utah as well. And we went out, and these guys are hilarious, and they're documenting their hunts, and a lot of times they're successful, sometimes they're not, but they're just documenting it, and people are watching it because they just want to live vicariously through what other people are doing, and they're entertaining and they're fun and they're teaching and they're educating.
Which you do learn stuff through
for sure,
man. Like, because I have shot coyotes in my life, but I never coyote hunted. So I would watch those guys,
right?
And I would like watch what they're
Like,
how
do
they're
you
setting up
call
their
in a
stands.
coyote?
And
there's a guy, there's a group here. Micah Phi is a friend of mine. Do you know Micah?
I grew up with Micah's little brother before he passed away.
Yeah, so Micah's been a good friend. He was the best man at my wedding, and he has. I don't know if he's still part of it.
What was that
but
one called?
Hidden
That wasn't Eric
Instinct.
Chester. That was Micah and
I don't know his partners,
can't
but
remember his
Hidden
name either.
Instinct was the name of their channel, and they were just out coyote hunting, and they would show people how to coyote hunt.
Yeah.
And they killed tons of coyotes, and they were doing really, really well teaching people how to hunt coyotes, and then they were selling hats in the meantime. Like, if you can't make money, I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
Well, the fact is, you got to be doing something with your life.
You do have to be doing
That's
something.
the thing, right? You have to actually be doing something, and the majority of people aren't really doing much with their life anymore.
Right.
And that's like the sad thing is, they go to work and they get enough to kind of cover their bill. I mean, let's be real. Like when you get out of high school or get out of college, you do just enough to do what? Set a goal to buy that car. You buy the car. Then you set another goal to do what? To buy the house. You do enough just to be able to buy the house. After that, what happens?
Yep.
It's flatline. The rest of your life, like you just do enough to be able to take care of those basic needs. Outside of that, you don't increase your skill. You don't increase your worth. None of that. And then you go home and you veg out to zone out and get outside of the reality that you hate so much, right? Through watching other people do what? Live an inspiring life or an awesome life, getting off their ass, doing cool shit.
Right.
Like if you got off your ass and just did cool shit and kind of just documented it, what it is that you do, even if you're shitty at it, right? Like eventually you'll be good at it. And some people really want to watch the journey, right? And be a part of it.
You don't even need, it doesn't even need to be all that exciting. I have so many ideas as I think about stuff like this. I'm thinking about like somebody doing pest control. Think about pest. I used to do that. So think about pest control. Like how many times does somebody treat you like a dick, or do they slam the door in your face? Like if
the door-to-door stuff?
Yeah. Or like security sit, or if you're like a Mormon missionary or whatever. And I know you probably can't do it as a missionary, but like if you're doing pest control or alarm sales, if you just recorded that and just showed how many times everybody slammed the door in your face,
interactions,
and you just did like a montage of the door getting slammed in your face.
I'm not buying shit.
And you put that on YouTube,
Yeah.
dude, you'd make tens of thousands of dollars. Like there's so many
and then
different
in a
ways
year
to make
from
money.
now, you're a sales trainer on how to overcome rejection.
That's what I'm saying.
Good door.
Exactly.
Yeah, like there's
so
plenty of
many
ways
different
to
things you
slice
could
it
do.
and dice it.
Just document it.
Like it was the same with me and Kel. It's like, okay, well, why would we start a podcast? Like two guys from a small town, like who's gonna listen to us? Like you don't feel special enough because the people that you looked at, they're different, right? There's you figure out how to justify that you're not to that level and you're not deserving of anything even close to what they're currently experiencing.
And you might not
right?
be. Like that's the thing. It's there's imposter syndrome, and you might feel like, oh, I'm not worthy of And you might not be. So your mom's going to listen to the first couple episodes and then somebody else is going to hear it and they're like, oh, that's pretty interesting. Like I've had guys, you know, we've been doing it for almost 9 years now. And I've had guys who are like, yeah, I've been listening for 9 years and I just joined your Iron Council. Like 9 years? It took you 9 years?
Shit, or get off the pod, dog.
But still at the same time, I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
At least you did something.
Glad
finally.
you're here.
Yeah.
Glad you're with us. It took I didn't know it'd take 9 years, but glad you're here with us, man.
Yeah,
Like, you know, that's exciting to me. So hopefully we can elevate your experience even further.
Probably pretty cool that you have all this data now from you took this leap of faith, you're learning as you're going, but you spend all this time with all these men and you get all this data on like what they really fucking struggle with and have to overcome. And like, I'm curious, man, like what are like the most commonalities you hear from men, right? Like that are like stuck or trying to, you know, because everybody wants to be a better man, right? So it's like, but there's got to be like
anybody doesn't want to improve their life.
Yeah, there's got to be like these few things that are like the most common like shit they got to.
I think a lot of it is confidence issues. You know, they've been shit on, they've been beat up. They're not satisfied with where they are in life. A lot of guys, you know, I'm 42 years old, so you could say like midlife crisis type mentality. And it's like people think they should be further along and they're like, what the hell have I been doing with my life? And and instead of trying to aim at something, they just maintain the status quo of like, this is life. This is just the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And so you hear that a lot. I think a lot of complacency slips in. You know, they're out of shape. They're not making the money they want. They're not having the sex they want. Maybe their marriage is kind of on the rocks and they're not feeling good about where it's at. You know, it's mostly that. And so what we try to do is we try to give guys something to aim at. And so when we work with men for the very first time, the first thing that we do is not, hey, go to the gym. Hey, make more money. It's let's talk about a vision. Yeah. Like, what do you want out of life? Well, I want to make more money. Cool. Got it. Yeah, we all want to make more money. How much more money do you want to make? Or I just want to be in better shape. Right. I know. Everybody wants to be in better shape. What does that mean? Like, do you want to run a marathon? Do you want to deadlift 500 pounds? Yeah. Do you want to be able to simply wrestle with your kids and not get tired? Like, have your kids get tired before you do? Do you want your wife to look at you when you're naked and say, damn, you look good? Like, what exactly do you want?
What's the outcome?
Right.
Why do you want it?
Right. And so we start talking about the vision. And once we have the vision and it's compelling and it's emotional, and when I say emotional, I'm saying like when you think about whatever that vision is, like your wife saying, damn, you look good. Yeah. And you're like, yeah, that feels good.
Yeah.
You know, and you can feel the emotion behind that. Then you know you're onto something. And then from there, it's like, all right, now let's reverse engineer it because you're 50 pounds overweight. So she's not thinking that right now. Okay. So what needs to happen? Well, you know, Ryan, I'd like to go from 28% body fat down to 15% body fat. I think that's a good start for me where I want to go. Okay, cool. We can do that. What are we going to do about it? Well, we need to work out every day. All right. What workout are we going to do? Is it powerlifting? Is it strength training? Is it CrossFit? Is it marathon? Is it endurance running? Is it martial arts? Like what speaks to you? Is it a combination of all of those things? Is it 5 days a week? Is it 6 days a week? Okay, good. 6 days a week, you're going to start doing strength training. Got it. Check. Now we're going to track it. Are you doing it 6 days a week? In addition to that, once we get that dialed in, what can we do? Well, now we got to worry about your nutrition. You're eating at Burger King and you're eating the all-you-can-eat buffet at the Chinese place down the thing. Like, okay, let's knock that off. What do we got to do? Get rid of processed sugar. Get rid of the booze. Like whatever we need to do to start getting that dialed in. And I'm telling you what, a guy who's 50 pounds overweight in 3 months, dude, he can lose 30 pounds.
Yeah.
Like a guy who's 50 pounds overweight can lose 30 pounds. And all of a sudden his wife's like, hey,
I see you.
Yeah. You want to go in the bedroom?
Yeah.
You know, and then you get that little reward, that dopamine of like, she looks at me, she sees me, and then you're like, I'm going to keep going. And you lose another 20 pounds and all of a sudden she can't keep her damn hands off of you. That's what we do. But it all starts with the vision of what you want. And it's not, I want to look good, I want to feel good, I want to make more money, I want to be happy. That stuff's all great, but that's bullshit. That's not actually going to lead you to doing anything meaningful and significant.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm a big believer that if you don't create a mountain to climb, your brain will turn on itself and you will become the mountain that you will eventually have to climb.
oh yeah.
Right? Like it'll erode itself. Like
Yep.
it wants to struggle. It wants to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have an external struggle that you're waking up to and saying, I'm going to impose my will on this 8-mile run, or I'm going to impose my will on this CrossFit workout, or whatever it is, it will turn on itself. It'll eat at itself, and it'll say that you're a piece of shit, you're this, you're that, and erode to the point where you feel absolutely worthless. And the only way to feel worthy of self-worth or confidence is by having enough proof that you are actually doing the things that are difficult to you. Yeah. Now, difficult to you, not difficult to him over here, right?
Doesn't matter.
Running a mile might be difficult to you right now, but are you climbing that hill?
Yep.
This guy over here that runs 20 miles a day, a mile's not difficult to him, but is he reaching his level of difficulty every day to where he's touching that side of himself, right? Yeah. Like, okay, I know that this is a challenge, this is hard, and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do that hard thing, which is 20 miles for this guy, it's 5 for this guy, it's a mile for this guy, it's lifting 100 pounds for this guy, 500 pounds for this guy. But the brain only knows what it knows, and it knows struggle and difficulty. And if you put yourself in that environment around struggle and difficulty and you impose your will, we all have it within us. We're all men, right? Where we want to overcome something hard or difficult. Yeah. And when you do that, tell me one time that you've walked away from a workout or a run or this, and you're just like, man, I really feel like shit about myself. I should not have got up early and moved my body in such an extraneous way.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, my God.
Well, and to your point, we are looking for problems as men, right? And we're like actively looking for them.
We want to be problem solvers, right?
Well, and if we don't have a problem, we'll stress about dumb shit. This is why Us Magazine and People Magazine and these sorts of things exist, because if you don't have a problem you're trying to work, you're going to start worrying about what Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are doing. Yeah. And you're like, look at this beta, look at this bitch, how he's treating it. It's like, dude, that should be the last thing on your mind. Yeah. Like, that's a problem that you shouldn't be consumed with.
I don't know anything about Prince Harry.
You shouldn't. You shouldn't. I shouldn't. The fact that
very validating.
The fact that I'm even talking about it is like, why am I worrying about it?
Put your man card on the table, bro.
Sorry,
like, hey, pull it out. Hey, we're not fully taking it from. We're just suspending it for 24 hours.
Get it out here.
So if he has a conference call with the Iron Council today, he can't make it. Okay, somebody's got to step in. What's his name? Vice Pres, the number 2 guy. He's gonna have to step in and handle business today. Mark, our boy Mark, he's going to send it today. I wanted to ask you a question. Like, you've interviewed a lot of badass people, cool dudes, right? Yeah. That have inspired many millions of people, and you have as well.
No Not me, those guys. I don't want. It's those
you
guys.
have as well. I mean, there's probably tens of thousands of men that are better off because you exist and because you speak.
That's the goal, right? Yeah.
You know, some of the things that you've spoken to them, right? Like, there's gotta. I look for voices, and guess what? I'm the voice for some people. Kel's the voice for some people. You're the voice, but you have voices too that you look to, and there's like a ripple effect, right?
It's always
like,
weird when somebody's like, "Hey, my marriage was struggling, or I was overweight, and this and I listen to your podcast every day." I'm like, why? Like, there's so many better people to listen to than me.
Like, what about the guys I listen to? Why have you not found them yet?
If you only knew half the shit I know about how inadequate I am, you would not be listening to me.
It's like, we're all fucked up. Let's just call a spade a spade. Totally. So the guys we're looking up to is probably thinking the exact same
they're
thing.
Screwed up too. I know that. Dude,
Everybody.
I'm telling you, and I'm not going to name names, but like, I've had conversations with guys who, in confidence, are like, "Hey, here's what I'm dealing with. Here's what I'm struggling with."
Everybody,
I'm like, "What? You?"
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I'm like, "Whoa, I never would have imagined that."
Who's impressed you the most out of all the people that you've interviewed, and what was the most impressive thing about them, or why did they impress you?
Man, that's so hard. That's a question I get a lot. I mean, really? I was looking at it this morning. I've interviewed 460 guys now at this point. I don't know. I mean, there's people.
Well, I guess some notable ones then. If we're not gonna nail it down to one, then like what are some people that like just really stand out in your mind?
I thought was really cool. Like I talked with Terry Crews. Terry Crews was awesome.
Yeah, he's
like,
got the peck pop. Like,
yeah,
he's got
he
that
didn't do
shit
that
down,
for me.
dude.
I was kind of disappointed.
He
He had a
really-
shirt on the whole
really
time. I was
really-
like, this is.
He's had a pretty incredible transformation too.
Well,
Just from the clips I've seen.
And like, and almost losing his marriage because of it and overcoming that. He was.
So he surprised you maybe more than.
He was like really down to earth. Like he was just like a normal dude.
Yeah.
You know, he was cool. Another one who I was like, is I had Matthew McConaughey on the podcast and I'm like, is this guy for real?
Yeah.
Like, is this?
Is he as chill as what he's like seems, you know?
He was on the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like when I talked with him, it was interesting. I'd ask him a question. He's like, I don't know, man. What do you think? I'm like, well, why are you asking? You're Matthew McConaughey. Dude.
Yeah.
Why are you asking me what I think?
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
But he was like that.
That's cool.
Goggins is interesting.
Yeah.
I went and did an interview. This was years ago with Goggins, and it was in Vegas.
Yeah.
And I got there. I think I got there maybe a few minutes early. I went up to his room, and he came in and he had like his gym shorts on and a gym shirt, and he's like, "Sorry, bro, I just got done with a workout." And
you're like, of course,
don't
you work out like 23 of the 24 hours.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, that's cool, whatever." And so we started having this conversation. He's like, "Yeah, I had like weird stuff happen." He's like, "You want to see?" And he has like these short like runner shorts on. He's like pulling it. I'm like, "No, I don't. I don't want to see like whatever you're showing me. I don't want to see it right now." And then so he was awesome. We had a really good conversation. And then afterwards, he's like, "All right, man." He's like, "We good here?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're all done. I'll just get cleaned up." He's like, "All right, good. I got to go work out." I'm like, "Didn't you just work out?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "But you're going again?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm going to work I'm going to work out, my second workout of the day." I'm like, "All right, get after it. Whatever, do your thing." Another one who really stood out now that I'm saying that is Tim Tebow.
Oh, dude, I listened to a podcast with him and Ed.
Oh yeah.
It's one of the best podcasts I've ever heard.
Mine with Tim's better than Ed's with Tim, just so you guys know. Okay. I didn't listen to it, but I know it's better than the one Ed did. No, Ed, I've done podcasts with Ed. He's a great guy. I'm just giving him a hard time. But no, like it was in New York when he came out with his book, and I rented a suite in New York, and him and his crew came up, and when he walked in, it was like a physical presence of, I mean, he's a big guy, right? He's a big, strong, athletic guy, but it wasn't that. It was just like, oh, this guy, there's something special about this guy. And he sat down and we had a conversation, and he was really humble, really down to earth. Like you could tell, just a kind person, really cared about other people. I messaged him again a couple months later. I'm like, "Hey, I want to have you back on to talk about this." He's like, "I'll come on anytime." Came back on, did another podcast with me. He was cool. A guy that I really admire and look up to is John Eldridge, the author of Wild at Heart. Have you guys read that book? Oh, that's such a good, that book changed my life.
Really?
Yeah, it's about masculinity and manhood, but it's written with an undertone of Christianity. And it really helped me understand a lot of where like the idea of what it means to be a man comes from for me, and how being raised by a single mother hinders that a bit. And that's not to throw single mothers under the bus, because I know a lot of single mothers
that do a great job.
They do a great job,
but that
it's
doesn't
inadequate.
mean yes, yeah, exactly.
You know, and if my mom was sitting right here with me right now, she would say the same thing.
Yeah.
She'd say, "I did the best I could, but I know I needed to get you around other men."
Yeah.
So she got me involved in sports and was a really big advocate for me joining the military, because she knew I needed to be around other good, righteous men.
Yeah.
Because there's just a gap when it's a single mother. And again, I know plenty of
Lots
single
of
mothers
love.
that I love. I
Lots
love
of
these
love
women
that they pour into the kids.
Totally.
But
They can't raise
There's
men.
still another side
Right.
that kids need too,
Right.
right? Some discipline.
I just
and
don't
some-
want a
yeah.
woman to listen to this
Yeah.
and think that I'm saying like she can't do a good job. She can raise a good human, but she
Yeah.
can't raise a good man
Yeah.
because she's not a man.
Yeah.
And she doesn't know. Like she doesn't. I'm speaking in generalities right now, but a woman doesn't know how to temper natural violence
Yeah.
or an inclination for
Testosterone like that.
competition or dominance. Like she just doesn't know because she doesn't have that same quality. Generally speaking, I know plenty of women who are competitive, who are physical, sure.
Yeah.
But that's the exception. That's not the norm.
Yeah.
But Wild at Heart, man. So he's been on a couple of times. I don't know. I've had so many cool conversations. It's hard to like narrow it down, but there's a handful that I like.
Sovereignty. What's the meaning of that? You wrote a book about it in 2018.
Yeah.
So what's the meaning for those that don't know?
I mean, if you strip everything away, sovereignty is the ability to do what you want, when you want, why you want, free of anything else.
Yeah.
So it could be
Does that mean being in full control to a certain extent?
full control and not under the thumb of anybody else.
Yeah.
So for example, if I was working with you guys
Yeah.
and I was your employee but I was broke, like I didn't have money set aside, I'm up to my eyeballs in debt, and you guys come to me and not that you would do this, but if you guys came to me and you're like, hey, Rye, we need you to do this thing, and it jeopardized my morals or my principles,
Yeah.
but I don't have any money and I need to put food on the table for my kids, I would probably jeopardize my morals.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not sovereignty.
Yeah.
Because now I can't do what I want, which is to be in
good-
integrity with
yeah.
my values because I'm financially destitute. If I'm 50, 80, 100 pounds overweight and let's say I'm pre-diabetic or I'm popping pills like they're, Skittles because I need to regulate my glucose
Insulin or
levels
whatever,
or, whatever, that's not sovereignty because now I'm beholden to pharmaceutical companies and the doctors in order to keep me alive.
Yeah.
Sovereignty is me getting my ass into the gym every single day, losing 50 pounds, eating right, and getting that shit in order. Financial sovereignty is learning a marketable skill where I can make some money selling something to somebody else, paying off all of my debt, not getting into credit card debt, and putting some money aside so that if you guys come to me and say, hey, Ryan, I need you to lie to this customer because this is what we need for the business, I can say, fuck you, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
You can fire me if you want, if that's the case, but I'm not doing that. And you fire me, but I've got $100,000 in the bank. I'm like, okay, well, this sucks,
good.
but I can find another job that's not going to ask me to jeopardize my morals.
So it's almost creating certainty based upon your own doing, your own will.
Totally.
Right? Like certainty in your finances, certainty in your health or in your faith or
Totally.
in your relationships
Yeah.
or whatever it is. Right?
And I don't want to say my own will. I mean, look, I struggle at times with my spirituality. That's a hard one for me.
You
'cause
struggle with religion or spirituality?
I like religion.
Okay.
Like a lot of people just differentiate the two, spirituality and religion.
Yeah.
And I know they're distinct things.
Sure.
And some guys will say, I feel closest to God when I'm on the mountain. That's cool, whatever.
Yeah.
But I like religion. And religion is important to me because you get around other people who are like-minded, who are on the same path. There's systems, there's a ritualized process of spiritual practices. There's a lot about religion that I like. And people will say, well, religion has caused more harm and more whatever. Yeah,
Wars and problems,
sure,
whatever.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like, but that's not spirituality. That's humans getting in the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
It's not the religion that did it because
No.
all that is guide. A religion is guidelines, and then you add the human element into the guidelines,
Exactly.
and then the human element is what disrupts,
Right.
or waters down maybe some of those guidelines through personal choice because I'm a leader within inside of a religion.
Right.
And now you say, I hate this religion because you hate Trevor.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like
Yeah,
when
exactly.
it has nothing to do with the
that.
religion, it's just words on a
Yeah.
paper or whatever that gives guidelines. Those are the ingredients, I guess, for success on earth. But there's humans that can pervert things
Totally.
in an ill will way, right?
The way that I look at religion and spirituality is, imagine all three of us play for the Raiders, right? That's the closest team.
Yeah.
We're all playing for the Raiders. And we're excited about it. It's our first year. We're rookies. We're going to go play with the Raiders. And they say, all right, well, practice is, I don't know how much they practice, but practice is, Tuesday at 10 to 7 or whatever, like however long they practice, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And we're like, I feel I'm good. Like, I kind of know what you guys are about. I've been playing football for 20 years. Like, I'm not going to go to practice.
Yeah.
Like, how's that going to work? It's not going to work.
There's
you need to go to practice
rules in order to,
and we all have to be on the same page. We all have to have the
Yeah.
timing. We have to be able to work together, and that's how it is with spirituality and religion. We can be spiritual in that we believe in God or whoever your God is, right?
Yeah.
And then the religious side of it is like, okay, now we're going to practice spirituality. We're going to practice praying. We're going to practice tapping into God's power. We're going to practice fellowshipping each other. We're going to practice all of these things so that our spirituality is that much stronger. But to your point, or my statement earlier, is sometimes I struggle with spirituality. It's like, did I create this, or did God create this? Is there a God? Does he care about me, or is he just like, do your thing, like I created you, do your thing, do whatever? I struggle with that at times, but the reason I brought that up is I don't ever want it to come across as like, I created this. Like, sovereignty to me isn't I created it. It's that I've been given blessings. I've been given opportunities. I was born to a mother who loved me. I'm somewhat intelligent. I'm not an idiot. I have opportunities based on where I live. There's friends around me who support me and edify me and uplift me. So sovereignty isn't I'm on an island alone doing my own thing. And sometimes people will say, well, if you follow religion, are you really being sovereign? You bet your ass I am, because I'm choosing to follow a doctrine that I believe serves me. And if I follow the doctrine of Christ, in my example, like I know other people believe different things, but if I follow the gospel of Christ, then I live a better life.
Yeah.
If I pay my tithing, if I try to be virtuous, if I try to do right by people, and I don't want to brag, but I want to share a little story because I think it goes a long way. There's a little girl, I'm renting a place, and there's this little girl and her grandmother that live downstairs. And she's such a cute little girl. She's 3 years old. She's such a cute little thing. She plays with my youngest, my 7-year-old. And she knocks on the door. Her and her grandma knock on the door the other day. And her grandma says, hey, she has something to share with you. And I was like, uh-oh. Like, I thought maybe she broke something.
Selling me a Dixie Direct card.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
She's 3, so she's
Damn,
not quite
all those
there
kids
yet.
do. You never
I
know
would buy one,
preschool.
but I got
Holy
like
shit.
17 of them that I'll never use. But damn that
look.
Tony, man.
Yeah. Like, nobody that's listening knows what a Dixie Direct is unless they're from here. But you don't want to know. You don't want to get hit up 13 times.
But I got a trampoline in the back, and I've got a swing on the thing, and toys are out back because my boys play with toys, and I'm like, uh-oh, like she broke something. That's what I thought. And her grandma's like, hey, well, why don't you tell him what you wanted to say? And I had just set up this like Santa Claus like blow up doll in the front, like blow up thing in the front yard. And she's like, I just wanted to tell you that I love that Santa Claus with those reindeer.
Yeah.
And that's all she wanted to say. And she's like, and I love the Grinch. And I'm like, you like the Grinch? She's like, yeah. So I went inside because I bought this stuffed animal for my son, and it was the Grinch. And I'm like, check this out. And she's like, this is awesome. I love this thing. And so they ended up leaving. And the next morning I went to Walmart, and they had one Grinch left. And I bought it. And I went downstairs, and I said, hey, I got this for you. And I gave it to her. Man, it cost me $25 or something like that. And it was like
lit up her whole world, which lit up yours. Yeah.
Her smile, and she grabbed it, and she hugged it. And then her grandma sent me a picture a couple hours later. and she was in bed with some like hot chocolate, and she had this Grinch, and she had this huge smile. Like, that to me is just do the right thing.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. Just do the right thing, and everything else will fall into place. Like, yeah, I'm out $25. So what?
Yeah.
Like, really, so what?
Yeah, but a lot of people are chasing that feeling that you received just watching her have a feeling that she got when she got that thing.
Yeah.
Right? And so, like, we just sometimes look at all the wrong places, when in reality, when you're of service and you're watching somebody else light up, there's that frequency that ultimately now comes over you, and then you light up watching somebody else light up, right?
And
like,
you have to do it for the right reason too.
Yeah.
Like, because a lot of times what I've noticed is a lot of things you hear, like especially in the entrepreneurial circle, is like add value, right? How many times have you guys heard that?
Yeah.
Add value, add value, add value, add value. That's right. That's not wrong. You should add value. But what most people do is they add value with the expectation of something in return. And that's not value.
Yeah.
Value to me is I'm going to provide I don't expect her to do something for me.
Yeah.
I just did it because I knew it would brighten her day,
Yeah.
and I knew she would like it, and I knew it was a good thing to do. And it's not contingent upon me getting anything in return.
Yeah.
And so if people can learn how to do that, of just, man, if you see somebody on the side of the road and they need to get their tire changed, like, just pull over and change their tire. And when they offer you $20 to help, just say, no, you take that. Or if they force you to take that $20, take that $20 and then just
hand it to somebody else.
Give it to somebody on the side of the road who needs $20. Like,
well, you
just
talked about adding
man.
value, and it goes back to kind of what we were talking about the videos, doing videos.
Yeah.
Really, all you were doing when you're saying, hey, I'm a plumber, and this is how you do this with the toilet. You're just adding value into the world, and by default, something good. It will serve somebody at some point, and there's good that you're putting out in the world. People on social media that have these trade businesses, whether you're mowing lawns or whatever it is, you take a picture of a perfectly mowed lawn with the lines in it. That brings zero value to me when I'm scrolling social media.
Right.
You know, if you're like, hey, this is how you change the valve on the sprinkler that was busted, you know, and then do a swipe and then show maybe like the after, then cool. But give me substance.
Right.
Like, what did you do in order to create those perfect fucking lines in your lawn?
Because I want those.
I want the lines. And I don't, you know, like, and no other man is mowing my lawn, but show me how to make the lines like I own a damn baseball diamond.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, hey, I crisscross like this. Cool. You just brought
Well,
value to my life, and I might share the shit, and then somebody ends up hiring you down the road.
Or even that with mowing the lawn, like mow your lawn and then just go mow your neighbor's lawn
or whatever. I did that, dude. I did like an edging thing out front, and I went over, but like she texted me and said, hey, will you not do that?
Oh, she did?
Yeah.
Why? What was?
I guess they weren't real. That wasn't tall grass. That was actually like planted like that.
Oh.
And I chopped it all down. It was the second time too.
You're
She's
such
like, I
an
forgot
asshole,
to tell you
dude.
the first time. Please
Such an
don't do
asshole.
that. Like, don't worry about my side of the yard or whatever.
Chop down the
thought
grass plants.
Well, no, it's, you know, we live in Virgin, so it's just like whatever. Like, there was like these tall grass looking things that are like actually like plants. It's just
He's
not
like,
grass.
hey, ma'am, I pruned your weeds, and she's like, those were the flowers that my grandmother grew 100 years ago.
I'm just laughing because
I literally, I was sitting there like, I am a good man. Like, you know, having to change the damn string on the thing because it was so thick. I'm like, you know, but feeling good. She's like, it was the end of my day after like 4 hours in my own damn
That's
yard, and
hilarious,
I'm
dude.
just handling business. And then I get a text, hey, I forgot to tell you last time that you took it down to nothing.
That's hilarious.
That's like that on
All right,
purpose.
well, 99 times out of 100, guys,
Don't
it's
be that
okay.
guy.
Like,
maybe knock on their
it's
door.
okay. No, but I'm
just kidding.
but it is real. Like, if you know, if you're at the grocery store, and you know you're spending, I was gonna say $200, but it's probably more like $500 now at the grocery store. Like
Thanks, Biden.
go buy go buy some extra food, man, and just leave it on your neighbor's door. Like don't put a note on there. Don't like say,
that was
hey,
huge
it's
for
Ryan.
us
Like,
growing
just
up.
put
Growing
some
up really
food over
poor.
there.
Like there would be people knock on our door, and we'd open our door, and there would be food. Like,
Awesome, man.
My
canned
wife did
food
that
sitting
yesterday,
there.
actually.
Really?
I was like, what are you
So
doing?
good.
She's like, I spent $800 at the store, but 300 of it's for this family. I just saw this lady. She finally got into her first place, but they have no money for food.
Yeah.
Took everything to get in. I was like, oh, that's so freaking cool.
Yeah.
You know, she thinks like that.
But it
Man,
means
that's awesome.
the world to a certain. I know for us, like growing up, that meant a lot to us because like we would open our cabinets and there's like nothing.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was just bread and you put butter on it with cinnamon and you just live on that.
That's still
Like,
good, dude.
That is still good.
I want that now.
But I don't.
You guys have some
I
out
don't-
here that I
yeah.
could have? Like,
We
I'm
have a
hungry.
big break room. We might have some cinnamon bread for you, bro. Take it back to the
shit
ghetto
growing
days,
up,
you know? The survival.
Well, like the other day, I was going out of town, and I'm not a great cook, but I use this program called HelloFresh. Have you guys heard it?
Yeah, I thought you were going to say this program called Microwave.
Dude, they're
Yeah,
pretty good,
microwave.
huh? They're not
So,
bad.
HelloFresh, dude, it's awesome.
Yeah.
So I got all this food, and I was out of town, and I forgot to turn it off, and I had like 4 or 5 meals.
Yeah.
It's just
And I'm
stacked
like,
out there.
damn, like what am I gonna do with this? And I just brought it to my neighbor. I'm like,
Yeah.
here, like I'm not. She's like, oh, can I pay you? I'm like, no, I don't. Like I had it anyway. It's
I'm
gonna
gonna
go
throw it.
bad.
Yeah,
Just use
exactly.
it.
Yeah.
Like just I don't know.
Yeah, find a way to be of service.
I'm just trying to figure out a way
Yeah.
to like be decent in every encounter and every
Yeah.
situation, and
And sometimes it's, I
it'll
mean,
work
as
out.
time goes on, it's tougher and tougher to do in the world that we live in.
sometimes
But
you cut
somebody's
old
gotta be
women's
that.
weeds down, you know.
you know, like,
But for the most part, it works out pretty
like
well.
my
She'll
my
talk about
heart
it at
was
your
there.
funeral. She'll
Lori.
appreciate it later.
Golly, she's a single lady there, and she's a little older, and I'm like, I'm a good guy. Holy shit! I don't know if I'm gonna get blessings
like,
in
I
heaven
actually
for that,
love
or if
this.
I'm gonna. That's
You
a
are.
withdrawal, or
No,
what?
dude,
My
you are.
intention was good, so God
Intentions,
knows
man.
my intention.
Intentions count.
You know,
intentions count.
Man, appreciate you coming out. How do people reach out to you? I mean, you
Order a
probably have-
man is the website.
Okay.
Podcast Order a Man. I'm
Instagram?
Instagram. Yeah, I'm pretty active there. Ryan
Okay.
Michler. So
Okay.
you can hit me up on Instagram.
What's up with the Iron Council? Like, what's that about?
So that's I call it a brotherhood. I think we've got 12 or 1,300 guys in there now. The goal with that is we're all holding each other accountable. So we do monthly topics. Right
You guys
now
meet
we're
like once a month, then like on a Zoom or something.
we do a weekly call.
Yeah.
And then in addition to that, guys have the opportunity to join what we call battle teams. And these are teams of 10 to 15 guys that are operating a little bit more closely together. So they have a team leader and they're holding each other accountable. They have an additional call throughout the week and they're checking in on each other like, hey, you said you're going to run. Did you run? No.
Yeah.
Why? Okay, make sure you run this afternoon or tomorrow. So it's pretty incredible. I kind of feel like I'm at the point now with what we've created where if I said I'm done, I'm out. I won't.
Yeah.
But if I did,
It'll live on.
Mark would take over and
Do his Mark thing,
continue
you know?
to run it, and
Yeah,
it,
good.
would, it would be awesome.
Shout out to Mark.
I
you know?
can't. I couldn't stop it if I wanted to, which is a really cool position. Like if I'm gone for a week, like I was last week, I almost feel better when I'm gone because I know it might actually run better when I'm not in the way bugging everybody.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool to see like guys run with it and they have their own ideas and their own agendas and things that they're trying to do. And it's really cool.
Yeah, that is
so
cool.
we open that back up in mid-December. We only open it up 4 times a year.
Cool. Just kind of quarterly or something.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
what I want to do is I want to make sure when we have new guys come in, I want to make sure that they have what they need to get onboarded quickly. Because if you don't, we've been doing it for 8 years. It's kind of like drinking from a fire hose. You're like, what do we do here? I don't know what to do.
Too much, too quick.
Just so
overwhelmed.
much. So
Yeah.
it's like, all right, we're going to give you 30 days. We're going to put you with 2 guys who have been veterans in the Iron Council for a long time. They're going to work you through some things for 30 days. And then once 30 days is up, you'll have a pretty good grasp on what's going on. And then you can be involved in everything. So we open it up every quarter.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Bro, appreciate you coming
Yeah,
out.
appreciate
coming
you guys.
on.
Yeah,
That
man,
was
this
a
was
fun
awesome.
episode. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
we
was-
talked about some cool
all
stuff.
over the place.
Yeah.
You know, it was good. It was fun. That's what I like about it. You just
Yeah,
never
for
know
sure.
where it's going to go.
Yeah,
you know. So,
exactly.
guys, we hope you enjoyed today's episode. Make sure that you review the show, you share the show. Other than that, guys, keep kicking ass. Take care. We'll see you next week.
Peace.